Hello, this is the front desk.
Hello and welcome to episode 44 of the Crackin' Backs podcast with your hosts, Dr. Terry Wyman and Dr. Spencer Barron. How you guys doing today?
Very good,
I'm
Lance.
energized.
Great to hear. Okay.
Why?
So today we are joined by Laura Stark. Laura completed her career as a four-year track and field athlete and earned her BS in exercise science from Truman State University in 2015. And taking what she learned from her college career, internship, and various other high-level coaches in the NFL, MLB, NHL, and other sports performance fields, she started her own business, Stark Strong Performance. She works today. How are you doing today, Laura?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
That wasn't too fast. You could hear all that?
I could hear it all. We'll see about everybody else.
So let me start by just sharing a little history of how I met Laura and how I was impressed from moment one. You know, if there's so many, for real, there's so many coaches and strength and conditioning coaches and you know simply any kind of training for physical and behavioral attitudes towards sports. But there's one element that Laura brings that not many people bring, and it is an energy and an excitement that is perpetuating and it's exhilarating. And, you know, I thought she'd be great on our program because that attitude is contagious and it's necessary right now.
Yeah.
You know, when this was maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, I think, Laura, we first started working together at BioCore,
Yeah.
you know, and
Chamber.
you know, Chamber, geez. And her probably her specialty is even more defined in the area of speed training. So, you know, and just watching her and Dr. Terry, you would absolutely love it because it's biomechanics at its finest and how to provide these athletes an edge. And it was interesting because I was talking to her yesterday about referring over what was it, a water polo? No, a swimmer or something like that. And it was interesting, your response. Go ahead.
Hey, before you answer that, have you had any luck in getting any speed out of this man?
You know, he's really a lost cause, and I haven't had anybody else. I've been able to get everyone faster, but man, Dr. Barron.
He's like a lump of coal.
No. Nobody can keep up with him. He's up. You know what? I woke up at 6:30 this morning or something, and I checked my email, and I think at like 4:00 something a.m. he had already emailed me. So he's out running in the middle of the night, just hiding it all.
So, let me ask you this: is he running? Because nobody's up at 3:30 to verify it. So you know he's up at 3:30 working out, and I'm like, I see pictures of the beach, but is he running? You know, I don't. And then he's in bed by 7? So it's like he can't even get to. I know he can't even get to Denny's to enjoy their early bird special because he's already in bed.
Right. Happy hour isn't even a thing. That's his midnight snack if he could make it. Maybe on a Friday.
All right. So now that I know you really do know the man,
I'm fine taking the next hour going this direction. We can keep going.
Wait a minute. That ain't fair.
We started this podcast an East Coast, West Coast versus thing. Yeah. So, you know, it's so fun to have somebody on the East Coast that knows my host, my partner very well that, you know, that I can, you know, we can fire at, you know, it's fun.
I can't say anything to rag on the West Coast because Laura will say something about me personally.
Pretty much. But hey, Laura, it's great to have you. And Dr. Spencer has said so many nice things about you, and what I would like to know from a guy who does not know you, when you've seen the last couple of years, everything's changed, and it doesn't, strength conditioning, doctors, nutrition, everything has changed. And so how have you adapted your business and your thought process to not only motivate these athletes to get them to that next level, but how have you changed my favorite book in this time is Who Moved My Cheese? And how have you changed your thought process?
She wasn't born when that came out.
Yeah, but I'm sure she's read it because she's smart.
I haven't. I have not.
Oh, it's a great book. Anyway, it talks about when the cheese moves, do you sit and wait for it to come back, or do you go seek and find it and change your paradigms in business and thought processes? So how have you changed the last 2 years to maintain your success, but also to help the mindset of the athlete that's also changed?
Yeah, this is actually a very fun topic for me. And first of all, I actually want to thank you guys. You've said some really nice things. I appreciate that. And Dr. Barron, I just turned 23 when we met. So, you talk about my energy, my whatever, but it's definitely needed some direction and focus many times. And Dr. Barron's has been there quite a few times. So that's been awesome.
That's awesome.
But now in the last 2 years, so obviously things went crazy, right? Everyone was like, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to be open. You don't know what's allowed. There was a period that we didn't even know if personally I was able to walk outside my house and go to a park to walk around. Like, you didn't know if people were going to say, you can't be here. Like, they didn't know what COVID was. They didn't know how it worked. And there was really no telling what was going to happen. So I continued training athletes at a park, but also with the understanding of I might not be able to do this tomorrow. I don't know what tomorrow looks like. So I started something online, and it was just something. It wasn't that good, but it got the ball moving. So that was kind of cool because I was actually quite busy. I actually did really well the first couple months of COVID because everything was taken away from these kids. School, friends, sports, everything.
Yeah.
And so vacations. And so I think parents had a little bit more excitement to go send them to training because it's something they can do. They're outside. It was a pretty safe environment. So I did pretty well, and I didn't focus too much on the online aspect. And then as summer went through and school rolled back around, that's when I was like, okay, I actually like this online aspect, because something that I've always thought of for myself is I have a wider reach. I know that I can help people outside this little tiny place of South Florida when they can come meet me where I'm at this time. And I didn't know how. So this was kind of like, oh, this is how I can do it. So we made a huge shift, and I created this program that I'm actually very, very proud of. And now I offer a very involved 12-week mentorship. So I do have an online program, and the reason I'm so proud of it is because I'm actually getting better results than I was in person. And maybe maybe that's a flaw with me in person. Maybe I wasn't, a stickler enough, but I'm finding that I can ask a lot more of them. So instead of saying, okay, we're going to come this week and then maybe this time, and then you'll be with these people, and just kind of like random workouts geared towards what they need, it's like, no, this is a 12-week track, and I can ask all of you or all of this in this week. And I can set aside time for education. I can set aside time for all these different aspects of our program that I find very important, that sometimes you just don't get to do in an hour session of training, because it's like, let's make the most of an hour. So it's been a roller coaster ride, as I'm sure everyone has their roller coaster story over the last 2 years. But it's been really fun and very rewarding to help more people all over the country to get better results, to now have a better business model and provide jobs to other coaches. It's been awesome, and something I look forward to growing.
And you have other coaches working for you now, right?
Correct. So I have 4 coaches who help out with the mentorship, and then I have an assistant with some of the business stuff.
That's fantastic.
The question I asked my staff before when what was it, March 15th or 16th, when things shut down because of COVID, and there was a lot of unsureness of what was going on, was it doesn't matter. Who do you want to be at the end of this event? Who do you want to come out as? And I will say that Laura has maximized on that question. Not that I asked her that question, but in her own environment, she thought of something and became very entrepreneurial. And I'll tell you, that's part of the reason why some people don't want to go back to actual work.
Oh,
anymore,
100%.
is because they redefined who they are. And Dr. Terry is a living example of this. He's doing this podcast. When he asked me, what did I say?
No.
What did I say when I asked you? No.
Yeah.
And he, as he goes, come on, you're my bud, man. I wouldn't ask anybody else, and all that.
I wore him down.
I wouldn't ask anybody else. The 3 other people I asked before you were saying
You're my last hope.
Said, all right.
And then he was soft enough to say yes.
Well, it took him a while. I had to wear him down a little bit. But you'll get to know me. I'm kind of I have a very low passion level and a very low energy level. So I
can see that. I can definitely see that, and I've heard that actually.
He is as persistent as fleas. I mean, it's got.
I'll take that. I can be a flea.
But the reality is that, even in the midst of opposition, in your regular day of living and the things that happen that are unfortunate, the question is whether it's asked consciously, like I've done for myself, or like you two, who do you want to be, after this crisis, or, And I always use the example, there were more millionaires created during, the Great Depression. How is that possible?
Yeah, that's a good point. And Laura, I got a question for you, because being on the West Coast, we have a lot more restrictions in my area than you do in Florida. And so a lot of trainers that strength coaches, personal trainers, health coaches, all that stuff, they couldn't do anything. I mean, you couldn't go outside. You couldn't go to parks. They shut parks down.
Right.
We actually had a park near our house that they actually put guards around, and you were not allowed to go there. And so it's the same country, different world. So
yeah,
100%.
And,
so one of the questions I had from athletes going, well, my coach wants me to go online, but how are they going to correct my biomechanics? How are they going to make sure I don't get hurt? How are they going to make sure if they're not there touching and moving me and assessing me? A screen is basically a 2-dimensional thing, where if I'm live, I'm 3-dimensional. So how do you solve those problems for the coach that goes, I can't do online because I can't make those subtle changes to keep that guy from getting shin splints, to get to pull a groin muscle, to hurt a meniscal tear, or to catch a guy that's overpronating? How do I fix those things? Or do you just say, well, I can't, but look at Peloton, who created these great programs, and I'm getting people healthy in their room, and you go that direction? So how did you manage those two dynamics?
Yeah, well, we can. I mean, and it's about the programming. Day one, they're not even running. They have homework to be doing before our official day one.
Go.
It's simple things like balance, easy plyometrics, the A drills progression. And so when they send us their specific video in the homework, we ask for a very specific video. We start tearing that apart. And so we don't just give the answers. My thing is like, let's educate you, because I can tell you what's wrong, but if I want you to get faster, in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years, when you're not with us, you need to be able to understand this. So the very first question that we ask every athlete essentially is like, okay, cool. So you've done your homework, you read the education packet. What are the 4 pillars of running? spinal alignment, hip projection, switch, and stiffness. So now they are kind of like thrown under the bus. A lot of times they're young. It's a little uncomfortable. I don't expect them to get the right answers, but when they start needing to answer questions, that's when they start learning. So we start looking at how they move in those simple moves. So I have an understanding of what they're going to look like when they do run, or when they do cut, or when they do jump. And so we can kind of pull anything out early on, and then the progressions are set to make sure that they're moving properly. So my favorite acceleration workout, for example, we don't even run until probably 45 minutes into the workout. We're doing things that build foot and hip stability, get the hips projecting, make sure their spine is in alignment and their shoulders are projecting with those hips. We're pushing the ground away. We're using the correct part of our foot. It's simple things like that, so that those drills apply with quality into a 10-yard sprint. And then we do a couple 10-yard sprints, a couple 20-yard sprints. You're not tired. That's not the point. You're not like, you can go practice later on, but have you learned something? Have you changed the way you moved? Have you thought about these things, so that you should essentially, depending on your level, some people feel faster that day. Some people it's going to take a little bit longer, but it's changing little things so that we're making sure they don't get injured.
Are you educating the person holding the camera as much as you are the athlete?
Well, they're not
because
on
you want to get.
Go ahead.
Because if you're watching them run or do this motion and to critique them, camera angle would be huge to help as a help. Do you have to, or how do you do that?
It depends, but we're not on camera with them the entire time. They have certain things they need to do, and they need to send us just like 10-second clips back. So based on, we ask for very specific drills for everyone, and then specific people will ask for more specific drills. So if Dr. Barron's sprinting, for example, and I'm like, ooh, his hip projection is trash, like, we need to make sure that we're going in. So we're going to be like, Dr. Barron, okay, well, first of all, let's talk about this. Let's figure out what's going on. Now, I want to see you send another video of this hip projection drill so that we can talk about it more. We can slow it down. Your feet aren't leaving the ground, and we're thinking about your shoulders, your hips, your shin angle, what part of the foot's on the ground, so that so they're going and doing the work and then bringing it back to us. Got it.
So they're having their friend or their parent or whatever film something, and you're telling them, I need this angle, I need this look, I need to look at, and that way the person can walk out there and film it. I mean, The reason I'm asking these questions, these are great models for any person that is anywhere. And beyond the fact that they can contact you to learn more, but we're trying to help people live a healthier lifestyle and figure out things and realize that just because they're told they have to stay indoors, well, that's not really true, and it's not really a healthy mindset or a movement. Movement is life, nutrition is life, mental is life, and a lot of your brain people will tell you just even 25 minutes a day changes all your brain waves. And so if we can get people working better and realize, well, just because that door is shut doesn't mean all these are there's not another open door somewhere else. What is one of the best things you have learned that has taught you from this online? Where have you seen mistakes being made that you may not have seen before when you were doing it live?
In terms of how they're moving?
Yeah, what have you learned going, you know what? I've done this for so many years live, but now when I switch to this different platform, I'm finding stuff that I never even saw before. So how is it enhanced on that thing, on that type of platform?
I think the major difference I've noticed is coming up with a full program and sticking to it. And I struggled in person with that. And again, this might have gone back to my flaws 2 years ago, where I didn't demand that they, purchase 12 sessions up front or 36 sessions up front, whatever it is. I didn't demand that, so maybe that's my fault in person. But now that I demand it and we say, hey, we're doing this, we're learning this, we're covering every single base, I find that the results are far greater. So before, if I can get someone faster in an hour, especially an amateur athlete. It's not that hard, but they're not really staying faster. And so to now see my athletes come back to me 6 months later, a year later, and talk about how much things have changed and how pivotal our program was. I mean, that's obviously not a problem. I guess that's the opposite of a problem, but that's something new that I've seen changing our methodology.
One of the things I'm getting out of this is you got more organized and you came up with a system. Yeah. And so I think every doctor, physical therapist, trainer, a lot of time we will go week to week and find out you actually had to step back and not only go week to week, but you go, okay, here's our plan, start, middle, finish. Now the patient can buy into it because they see where you're going with it. And you got really more organized on a not only a business model, but you got more organized as a strength coach to track progress, which I think is what everybody wants. They come in, they want to know, okay, how do you fix my problem now? But how do you continually fix it? And where's an end point? Where's a middle point? And I think you got really organized, and that I think calms people down mentally. What do you think about? You think that's kind of true, Spence?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I was going to ask Laura. I don't remember if you videotaped people running when you were one-on-one with them versus now being able to videotape and slow it down. You could see so much more. Mm-hmm. Is that? I don't remember if you were doing that or not.
I did a little bit because I knew how valuable it was, but it wasn't as consistent again. So it's like, we would have this, and then a video analysis takes a long time out of an hour. So again, if I only have an hour and I am working with 3 people, I would love to spend 30 minutes of it explaining what's going on because they get so much value out of it. But I just couldn't do it quite as much in person. And then again, that's why we shifted. So I have 4 pillars to the program itself. And pillar number 4 is video analysis, because I think that's when people really have that understanding of like, I now understand what you're talking about. I now know what to look for when I'm going to fix it.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. Go ahead, Terry. What were you saying?
We have 2 older guys. We have a 19-year-old college student that's our engineer, and his college is opened up. Some colleges are not opened up. What would be your advice for the person who is been locked down, online learning, told his business is online now at home, and they're not leaving their home, and they've created these new patterns and this new way of life, and it's not healthy. And what would be your advice to those people that are stuck, waking up, going to the computer, on doing their learning, your business, eating their dinner, walking back, watching TV, going to bed? What is your advice to that first step out of that hole?
Yeah, honestly, this is not very much my specialty. My people are typically middle and high school athletes. So my problem more is actually like, hey, you're doing 7 trainings a week. You're doing this. I actually need to slow people down sometimes, but I'll still answer it. Again, not my specialty, but just with anything, no matter what your problem is or who you are, I think finding a routine and finding a why is going to be important, because we all like routine.
Yeah. There it is.
We're all kind of creatures of habit, but I can say I want to get out of bed at 6 a.m., but then 6 a.m. rolls around. If my why isn't there, I can just hit, we'll just go back to sleep. So having that understanding of, something we do with our athletes is before anyone even starts, I ask them this question, but I'll say, why do you play soccer? And a lot of times you get like, oh, it's fun and I love it. And it's like, no, that's not it. Because it's not always fun. Like, it's not, being an athlete is not always fun. But why do you play? And a lot of times it goes back to just broad answers, just fulfillment, and people are proud of me and I'm proud of myself and I'm a hard worker, I'm competitive. This is an outlet for my competitive nature. It's a way for me to keep progressing. So there's more reasons of why they play soccer or why they do what they do. It's not just because it's fun and I love it. So going back to like, okay, you've developed some unhealthy habits, you're not doing what you want. Okay, let's create a routine, but then let's put that, why did we create this routine? Why do you have to get out of bed? Or why do you have to do whatever you need to do? There's something weighing on it.
And your why? Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? So a couple different reasons. Number one, I love athletics, right? I love being able to help athletes. I don't feel like my college career, I ran track in college, I don't think that it was capitalized. I'm sure I could have done more. I unfortunately didn't have a very good coach. I would ask him a question and the answer was kind of because I said so. And it's like, I'm not questioning your authority. I legitimately want to know. So I want to give back to athletes things that I didn't have. I want them to capitalize. I wonder what I could have done because I know I could have done more, and I don't want other people wondering what they could have done. So was my calling to be a coach more than an athlete? Probably. But I don't want other people hanging up on that. Another why I do things, that's kind of the training side. Now the business side, I've realized that I love being in charge of me and being, like finding other people that you trust and you value, but not needing to clock in, I guess. Because I think clocking in, you kind of lose that motivation, you lose that fire. And I could even see it in myself. Sometimes I wouldn't want to train as hard when I was clocking in versus when I was training for Stark Strong Performance. And it's the same thing, but it's just that extra fire and knowing that I can find my own way to get the best results. And I'm not the best. And of course, I'm not even the coach for everyone. Everyone's going to have their own coach, but I found the way that gets my athletes the best results, and I'm really happy and thankful and grateful that I can do that.
So that's your why, but let me ask you let's go even deeper.
Uh-oh, he's got that look
why.
on his face.
Oh, he does.
I'm nervous for this one.
No, you'll appreciate this.
Okay.
Because when an athlete shaves off like a split second off their time, and that as well, we all know as well as I do in the world of sports, a millisecond can mean a win or a loss.
Yeah.
So when they have a personal record based on any changes you've made to their biomechanics or their ability, how does that make you feel? I mean, I know what the obvious is, but what does that make you feel like?
Okay, well, the obvious, I feel great. There's a party over here, and it's always with me and another coach. So usually, the coach and I are over here celebrating, and of course we're doing it in the group chat with the athlete. But we talk about it behind their backs too. Yo, did you see his times? Did you see how crazy that? Part. Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the obvious part of super fun. I love seeing the wins, but again, going back to the deeper side of things, I built that program. I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of the structure to get results, but also the structure to be able to map out results, where before I wasn't mapping out things as well. I wasn't structuring it to get the results. So I can't say that nobody else has got these results in the past in my in-person because I wasn't mapping it out, but I feel pretty confident that just the structure behind everything, it wasn't creating these same results.
And the alternative question is, what do you feel like and what do you do when someone says, I'm just not getting the results?
That happens.
What happens next?
That happens, and it's a couple different conversations. So number one, it's a conversation with the athlete, hey, what's going on? And it's meeting them where they're at, because if you want an honest answer, then you need to have already built the correct rapport with them. You need to show that you care about them and the results, and saying that isn't enough. You have to show it. They have to believe it. So I've had people who have not got results as fast as they would like to for a variety of reasons. One, they had way too much on their plate and they were super stressed and they had a bad week and it took 6 weeks instead of 4. You know, sometimes it'll take 1 week, sometimes it'll take 6 weeks, sometimes we need 12 weeks depending on who they are, what the goals are, where their starting point is. And so, number one, I want to truly sit down and try to understand what the athlete's going through, not just through sports and physical and whatever is going on with our program, but just everything else in life. And you find that sometimes there's too much going on. They're afraid to tell their parents because they don't want to take practices away, even though that's literally hurting them. But it starts with just, let's talk. And then from there, let's say that there's not really any problems going on. It's just that they need to make changes. It's okay, well, let's dive into it. You know, where do you want to be? What's getting in the way of you getting there? And I can tell you from my point of view, but I also want to hear your point of view, because at the end of the day, even if I give you the best program ever, if you don't follow it, it's not good. It's not helping, right? So it takes their buy-in, it takes their understanding, it takes understanding where their head's at and how they're viewing everything to really understand, you know, what's best for this person today. And what's best today might not be the same thing next week.
So you brought up something kind of interesting. You brought up, you know, talking to parents. When you're dealing with high school and college age, and especially when parents think that, well, my kid's going to get a scholarship to California because, you know, Florida's easy. If they're going to get... No, if they're trying to get the scholarship and they're push, and then you see the kid has a different thought process or different stuff like that. How do you deal with the? We all have our helicopter parent or anything like that, and the parents come from a point, I think, of love and support and seeing it, but it may be on different planes. And how do you help guide the parent as well? Because that's a challenge. That's got to be a challenge for you.
That's a great question. Now, I'm pretty fortunate that our program is pretty involved, and it takes a level of commitment. It takes a lot for them to join us. So I don't accept anyone, and by the time someone's on, we've already resonated, parents, athletes, coaches, everyone. We're all kind of on the same page. Now, is that 100% of the time? No, it never is. So it does involve understanding where everyone's at, and sometimes, you know, my job is to get the athlete better, and I want to understand them. Now, I'm not a therapist. I can't break their trust. So if I feel like I'm helping them and they're telling me things that they don't want their parents to know, assuming they're not in danger, sometimes I just got to keep it to ourselves, because you've built that trust with, yes, they're a minor, right, but this is helping them get better. Obviously, if it's hurting something, then it needs to go further. So when it comes to, let's say the parent, like you mentioned, the parent wants them to go to college and they don't, well, now I need to understand, what do you want, you know? And let's find out how to get to that. And maybe it's the same path and the same process, and maybe it's the same thing that they even want, but they're using different words. So it's just about, again, listening and understanding to the parent and to the athlete, and then talking, if there's an issue, talking about, okay, well, what's our goal? Who are we helping? What's going to be best for them? I haven't had too many issues. I've been pretty lucky. I think the bigger issues have been in that situation where the parent wants more than the athlete. Typically, they don't join our program just because we're not a very good fit for them. I need the athletes working so hard, or else it's a waste of your money, and I'm not very comfortable bringing you in if I don't see that the athlete wants it at all.
So that's fabulous. So what I've noticed in the last 2 years, and one of my pet peeves was always the phone. You know, the kids are spending 2 to 3 hours more in front of a phone. Parents are spending 2 to 3 hours more in front of the phone. But we started seeing in my area, everything was shut down. So the kids were trying to do their hour workout in their house. And then when they weren't doing their hour workout, they were on the couch, they were on the bed, they were on their laptop, they're doing all that. And all of a sudden, they opened everything up. And these kids went from 0 to 60 or 0 to 100. And I'm seeing hamstring strains. I'm seeing groin pulls. I'm seeing stuff like that. That was nasty.
Ugh.
So what, as a coach and a lifestyle expert, we tried to tell the kids, you got to slowly ramp up. But then we got some of the parents going, all right, you've been lazy, and coach wants you working out 6 days a week now. You gotta get going. And the kid's like, oh, and their mindset was off. But then they're like, I gotta get going. I'm behind the 8 ball, and they went from an hour a day to 4 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so, what's your advice for people listening? Going, all right, I gotta stair step this up, but I gotta find an organized, controlled manner to do that. And which sounds like what you've created. You've created this 12-week program that is stair stepping, and I think that would help anybody, parent, to understand. Okay, I have a plan to get my kid back, and the kid going, okay, I'm not going to disappoint coach or mom, and I'm not, and nobody wants to get hurt, and so is that where you found that happy balance during this last 2 years of a structured 12-week program?
I found that is definitely a huge part of it. Now, something I've always been pretty good at is not trying to please the parents on what they think they want, or even the athlete on what they think they want. It's about, well, first of all, you have to agree. You have to get them to agree with you. But it's about shifting perspectives and understanding what they need. So for the example you used, okay, let's do 1 million hours a day, or let's get them tired. I want them running, whatever. It's like, what is that helping? So again, I'll use the soccer player example. I work with a lot of soccer players. One of my pet peeves, so many soccer coaches will come in and be like, I need you to go jog a mile a day. And I'm like, why are they doing this? They're training their slow twitch muscles. It's not getting them better. They're running at a really slow pace. It's boring. Right. Like, what are they doing? What are they doing this for? We can get them running the equivalent of a mile in different sprints and bursts, and how a soccer game would go.
Right.
So,
right.
I don't want to say, hey, don't listen to your coach, but I do want to shift perspectives. Like, hey, I'm going to tell you what I think. Now, I don't want you to take my word just because I say it, just like I don't want you to take that mile a day word just because they said it. I want you to go do your research. You go look up some articles on Google Scholar. You go do whatever. Come back to us with what you find. Let's talk. So it's, like, my job isn't to please the parents and make the kids tired so that they sleep at night. I'm not a babysitter. My job is to get them faster. It's to prevent injury. So I don't mind explaining my methodology behind it, but we're going to do things a proven way. And I'll be honest with you. So I have a 6-week check with the athletes and the parents, and I get on Zoom and we're all talking. And this is actually one of the girls, like we said earlier, who didn't have the fastest results. Now, oh my gosh, she's sending highlights. I should send these to you because they're phenomenal. She's beating people left and right. Her confidence is skyrocketed because she's faster. That's she's scoring more. She's doing so well. But at 6 weeks, I sat down with her parents and her, and her dad's a lawyer, and so he says things the way he's going to. He's got, and I love him, but it wasn't a super comfortable conversation for a while. He's like, if she's trying to get faster, shouldn't she be doing more? Like, shouldn't she be running more? Shouldn't she be doing this? And so, we had a conversation around, like, okay, well, sprinting, 10 times back and forth or whatever, like, you're going to get conditioned. And if that's the goal, we can talk about adding conditioning in. But if we're trying to get faster, there's things that we need to do. And so by the end of the conversation, he's like, I trust you. But it was kind of like, like, whatever. Like, I do trust you. Right. But I'm not 100% sold. And, luckily the athlete was sold. The mom was like, oh, I actually see both sides now. You're both right. And now she's actually on week 12 right now. I think so. She's on week 12. She's on 11 or 12 right now. And both parents and her have been super happy. So it's like, that's cool. That wasn't very fun. It was clear that they didn't 100% trust me, but I trust me. And I see what she's doing, and I see the progress
go.
she's making. So although she wasn't where I wanted her to be at 6 weeks with these, like, it's great if we're all just throwing a party. It doesn't always work like that, but it does at the end of the day. And my goal isn't to get her faster in 6 weeks. My goal is to keep her faster for her soccer career.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome.
It's interesting, the depending on the generation that you're talking to, a lot of people from my generation. All right, I'll leave Terry out because he's maybe like a year younger than me. But anyway,
a lot more than a year.
Okay, however many.
It's okay, Dad.
But
Lance is
Lance is
having some issues over there with this
Yeah,
conversation.
that was weird.
He hears this. He's subject to this often.
Poor guy.
Anyway, but the idea is that it was always funny because back in the day when we were training back in the 70s and 80s and stuff like that, they would always go, "Hey, how many hours did you spend in the gym?"
Yeah.
And they'd go, "Well, like an hour," and they'd go, "Oh man, what kind of training is that? You got to put in like 2-3 hours." And when you watch these old guys that train for 2 and 3 hours, it's because they're talking.
Yeah.
So the intensity is diluted. So the perfect metaphor is sprinting. Everything should happen fast and quick, and learn. Intensity over time is the key.
Hey Spencer, is that really relevant? Because Laura wasn't even born in the 70s.
Well,
I wasn't
I'm
even
just
close.
giving a little. I'm giving her a little prehistoric history. So, I'm going to change. I'm going to shift gears for a moment, Laura. Don't get nervous because I'm going to fire off some questions that you do know the answers. It may cause you to think for a moment.
All right.
And I'm going to ask you why.
Okay.
So let's start with, what's your favorite color?
Green.
Why? What does it remind you of?
So I really like nature. Like when I'm in nature, I feel very full. So I don't know if that's the reason why I like green and blue, but I do know that when you're looking at something pretty, whether you're like, okay, California, what part of California are you in?
I'm in.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I'm in Southern California.
Okay, so like Orange
Southern
County.
California.
Orange County is like one of my favorite places
no.
in the world.
So Orange County is actually south of me. So I'm between Santa Barbara and Malibu. Yeah, Malibu and Santa Barbara area.
Oh, okay. So all of Southern California, I have a special place in my heart for like Orange County, but just the views that you get there. And so when you can see
Orange County is beautiful.
Yeah, when you can see greens and blues and just different shades of all the greens and
blues.
And
mountains, which
I know, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna give California the mountains like that. We don't have that. Dr. Barrett's disappointed now.
I know.
But you guys get cold. You guys get cold. You do. Yeah. It's cold. What's the temperature right now? What's today?
Right now?
Yeah, it's January 27th.
Yeah.
And
in my area right now, it's probably in the mid 70s.
Oh, that's not bad. I was actually just there a while ago when it was in the 40s. I was there like a couple weeks ago, and it was 40.
Yeah, we had
back to the question.
Yeah, okay, back to the
questions.
Yeah, I'm in shorts right now, so it's all good.
God.
Yeah.
I think it's 75. I'm in long sleeves.
He's lying. He's in his underwear. I promise.
We all are.
So what you don't know is that Laura's eyes are unbelievably green. Yeah. They're spectacular. So I wondered if that was why she picked that color, but she had a better reason.
No, you know what? I don't even know what color my eyes are. In the sun, sometimes they're like yellow. They've been blue before. I used to call them hazel or brown. I don't know. But no, I think that
what color are my eyes, Brett?
Brown.
Brown. But the green and blue, I think, resonates with me from nature.
Got it. All right. Favorite number?
2.
Why?
I don't know. 1 through 3 was always, I ran track through college, so I didn't have numbers there, but middle school, high school, I was always playing team sports too. And I always had to be 1, 2, or 3.
Okay, so 2.
Yeah.
Favorite place to visit?
Ooh, hard one. So I did just talk about Orange County being kind of my go-to place.
That doesn't count.
Now,
yeah, it does.
I want to go so many other places. There's a million places I want to go, but those are like trips and vacations. So as in terms of like I could go back here all the time and visit, Orange County would be my go-to.
Oh, why am I asking these
I
questions?
don't
All right,
know.
let's see. All right, so now if Superman has a fortress of solitude,
What is going on here?
What is yours?
If what? If Superman has,
Okay.
yeah, I need help on this.
You know, when Superman is not saving lives, or he goes to a place to meditate and think and conquer the world. What's your place?
Okay, it's by water and away from people.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
for example, the last apartment I lived at was right on a dock, and nobody was ever there.
Oh, nice.
And it was beautiful.
Oh,
So I had the
beautiful.
water, I had the palm trees. Sometimes there was shade. I had boats. Manatees would swim by, and so
Oh,
I would
that's
take my
heaven.
dog there. So anytime I can be alone, but with my dog, and with sunshine and with water, like I feel energy from sunshine and water.
nice.
Very good.
Nice.
What book are you reading now?
The Infinite Game.
Are you?
It's really good.
Ooh.
Highly recommend. It's about
Well-
leadership and honestly, it's kind of about morals, like a little bit. It's about leadership and being a good leader, but I think morals goes hand in hand with it.
So interrupt for a second. What's one pearl that you picked out from that book that you've gotten so far?
There's a
What's
lot,
helped
and
you?
I need you to just go read it for yourself. But
Oh,
just in terms of like taking care of the people, and so when there's and I mean, this book is talking about really big corporations. So they talk about Microsoft and Apple a lot. They talk just big names. But something that they talk about with people who have done well, it's not about winning the plays, the games, whatever. It's the infinite game. Like, where are we going way beyond our time? Like, this is a never ending game. And there's some really cool stories in there about that.
Perfect.
3 more questions. Ready?
Yes.
What is your superpower?
What's my superpower? Oh man, I'm still developing it. I'm not super at anything, but something I have gotten a lot better at in the last couple of years is listening to people and being able to relate to them or meet them where they're at. Not a superpower, a long way to go, but I'm getting better.
If there was a weakness that you've identified in you, what would that be?
Sometimes I need a little bit more direction. We were actually just talking about this a while ago. So I'm not great at coming up with ideas and stuff, but I've had ideas, and it's like, okay, we could do this and this and this and this. But okay, what's the first step? How do we take action? So that's something that I'm really trying to do better at. And it's like, all right, well, if I want to get here, and I'm talking about like high levels, you don't just get there, you have to do something to get there. So sometimes it's hard to know, what's the first step, and then do I turn right or left? I don't know, but something I need to do better at.
Okay, last
Yes.
question. Last question is what is the next frontier for Laura Stark?
The next frontier. Well, Dr. Barron, we've been talking. That's kind of it.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. So I would like to do a lot more public speaking and events. And it could go so many ways, right? Like, you've talked about lectures and stuff, but I want to be in front of more people. I want to be teaching people, whether it's athletes or coaches or whatever. I think it's fun to teach.
Is that a result of, because you've done so well with this online thing, is that a desire because we've been so, for the most part, sequestered from being in front of people, that now we have this super desire to want to be in front of people? Would you say?
I don't know. I think
I've
just developed my skills more over the last 2 years of doing that. And so then I think I'm realizing, like, this is fun. I'm kind of good at it. I could do a lot.
You're very good at it.
Thank you. I could do a lot more. And, just like I said when I was training in person, I know that I have value to give to other people. I know my scope reaches wider. How do I make it happen? I didn't have an answer at the time, but it did happen. So same thing now is like, I could teach more people. One thing I do really well, because, speed is speed. There's not a lot of groundbreaking stuff when it comes to teaching speed. It's very similar. But what I do better than, I'm going to say, the majority of people is I know how to explain it to who I'm talking to. So I can bring it down because it doesn't need to be complicated. I can break it down and make it make sense, where sometimes people start getting too excited and talking above your head.
That was great, Laura. I appreciate it. And I knew a lot of the answers to the questions, and yet you were great on the fly with some of the ones that you weren't privy to. Terry, you got anything
like
you want to
Superman,
mention?
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, he could have used Wonder Woman, but no, he used Superman.
Well, no, maybe if he would have said Iron Man, I would have been like, I gotcha. Because my last name's Stark.
See?
I was called Tony all through college. We should have gone that.
You missed that one, Dr. Spencer. You didn't pull up on that. All right, on that.
We have Fortresses of Solitude.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know, right? So, and isn't Tony Stark in isn't his Fortress of Solitude a nice house in Orange County?
In Malibu, right?
In the Malibu.
I think it's Malibu, and it's a beautiful one.
Don't bring up comics around my dad. He has.
Well, I was going to say Malibu, but because she likes Orange County, I was going to go there. But it was on the California coast in Southern California. That's where the Stark compound was.
Yes.
So, yeah.
You're thinking of Richard Nixon.
No, and that was San Clemente. So, and the reason we know that because there was a mountain overlooking the ocean. It wasn't like from the middle of the city all the way to the beach, But hey, you're great, and Laura. What I've come out of this is organization programs with start, middle, ends, getting people motivated, but giving them tracking where they can track progress so they can see their progress. My son will tell you I'm a very competitive person. So I know when I help somebody and they win or they improve their time, then a piece of me won because I felt like I was part of that process. And that's what drives me to keep working with athletes and as a doctor to help them achieve their goals. And I think you've done a phenomenal job of helping achieve their goals and setting even higher goals for yourself. I think you'd be a fabulous speaker. And we're very blessed to have you on our podcast to let the world get to know you a little bit better. And
I feel so honored to be here. No, thank you guys very much for having me.
Great.
I know that.
Well, it's fun.
Your guys' accolades are amazing, so I'm just honored to be around people who are doing that, trying to pull from you guys.
And I think that's what we're trying to do with this podcast that we started last year was, to bring hope, to bring information, to bring knowledge, to get people to start talking, have organic conversations, to learn and to ask questions and to develop a better self for themselves, healthy. Look at things different. We had Aaron Brockovich that said one person can make a difference. That's the stuff we're trying to install, and I think we're on the right path. We're having a blast doing it, and it's guests like you that keep us going and make it fun to do this. So thank you very much for your time. Yeah. I know you're busy, and so I like wrapping up. I really appreciate you. That's all I got.
Well, you guys are doing great. Thanks, keep it up. I'm happy to have played a little role in it.
There you go. Laura. Well, hopefully our podcast helps others and helps you as well. So on that note, have a blessed day and a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Kraken Backs podcast. We hope you enjoyed, and make sure you follow our Instagram at the Kraken Backs podcast. Catch new episodes every Monday and Thursday. See you next time.